trying to moralise life in general. I mean, it just is. And you know, we can argue, we can bring up specific examples of whatever you like, but you can't, arguing around whether a totality of all that exists, or the totality of life, or of evolution, is, you know, casting a moral judgment on that. It's just, I don't see any use to it.
Yeah, because you're not recognizing, because you're perfectly comfortable being compliant to its mission, because you validated it, because you have reverence for it, right? Because you haven't taken the logical step of saying, wait a minute, what the fuck is that created us? Do we make any sense? Does our life make any sense? Can we possibly accomplish? I mean, it really is part of the design. If we're going to figure out, well, what the hell is life doing here? Are we really accomplishing anything? Or are we just chasing our tail? I mean, I've used these metaphors. I mean, if you don't have an argument that we're not doing that, that's not my fault. That's your fault.
Still, I think, looking at nature as if it's something out there outside of you, that you know, like something that's broken that can be fixed. I mean, it just makes...
Well, it's not about just fixing, it's about us, okay? We were built by it, so that's a key part of it. And whether or not we can fix it, who the hell knows? Who the hell knows what we could do with technology 500 years from now, or 1,000 years from now? But the point is we're not going to do anything if we stay deluded, and if we remain, you know, lost in those delusions. We're gonna fly right off the practicality cliff, because we're going to keep investing in a nature that's completely unsustainable.
Makes no sense to me whatsoever. I mean, it's not like your car or anything like that. I mean, you know, you can't...
Yeah, it's like your mechanic. So if you went to a mechanic and he just drooled on your car, he's just drooling. He's just sitting there drooling on your car. Would you let that guy touch any part of your car? I mean, come on. We were built by an idiot. All right? It's time to take some responsibility for that and try to rise above our bastard creation.
Fix nature. I mean, what is to fix it? I mean, you are a part of it. I think it's a big mistake.
What's, you know, a part of it, a part of it, a part of it? What do you mean? What do you mean? How am I a part of it? I'm a product of it, you dumb fuck. I didn't invent this system. I'm not part of that idiotic creation. I wasn't in on the design plans. No, I was just thrust into this crap, okay? And then I was supposed to be stupid enough to fall for it. I was supposed to be stupid enough to say, oh yeah, it makes sense to just keep chasing my tail for 80 years, and then I drop dead, but first I leave behind a couple of new chill tasters. No, I'm sorry. It's stupid.
To talk about nature as if it is doing this, or as if it was causing this or causing that, you know, out of stupidity, or out of intelligence, or out of benevolence, or any of these personal characteristics, which are just...
Personal characteristics? I don't think they're just personal characteristics. They're the standards that intelligence demands from something. Intelligence requires things to make sense. Okay, so it requires things not to be gluttonous, and it requires efficiency, because intelligence can judge efficiency. The fact is, nature is the creator. Okay, we can turn our eyes to the creator, and we can pass judgments. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like I said, if you found out tomorrow that a lizard was the creator, you wouldn't just benignly sit around saying, oh well, tough shit for us, it's lizard's in control, so we'll just do what the lizard says. I don't think so.
Doesn't have. I mean, this is the point really. If you want to know how much suffering there is compared to any other subjective experience, well, how can you know that? I mean, that is kind of the point here, isn't it? How do you know suffering? We agree that the starting point for morality and ethics is suffering. I think we agree on that. But, you know, rather than jumping straight from there to saying, well, is nature itself, moral or immoral, which is basically what you're asking.
No, it's not. You know, it's not a word I like using. You have seen my videos. You know, it's not the word I would use, because morality is associated with dogma. It's ethical judgments, yes. I mean, and bottom line is you convert the word ethics into efficiency. Is it efficient? Is it rational? Is it wise? Is it intelligent? These are the questions we're allowed to fucking ask when we analyze the design and the designer.
Instead of just making that leap, why don't we start from suffering and ask the question, how do we know suffering? How do we know the meaning of it? And I would say that we know the meaning of suffering because we experience it ourselves. It's a subjective experience, and we know it.
Yeah, but let's qualify that. It's a subject. We learn it through a subjective experience, but our knowledge of it becomes an objective fact. The fact that I feel, and that I have learned what a feeling is through subjective experience, is an objective fact. I have gained knowledge through subjective experience. It is a piece of knowledge.
We have empathy so we can imagine the suffering of others. We can't know it directly. I can't know your suffering directly.
Yeah, but empathy even is the wrong thing, because empathy requires us to bend our philosophy to fool our emotions to create a sensation. We really don't have to go through that process to have an intellectual understanding of right and wrong. So we don't have to bother with the feeling crap, the emotionalizing, to make judgments and statements about the right and wrongness of something. We really don't have to, emotionally weep to be able to say what a crime that is.
I know if I was to pour a kettle of boiling water on your head, that is causing suffering to you. Because I can imagine what it would be like if you done that to me. The empathy is the basis really for forming
But it's not. Empathy isn't the basis. Empathy is the product. The basis is intelligence. The basis is an intellectual understanding of value. All right, and the context of this thing called value is the fact that we have to understand what a pleasure is made out of, and we have to understand what a pain is made out of. We have to understand why these forces exist and what their intent, their natural intent was, and whether or not they can be moderated to such to a degree that will make it more efficient, where we can create less pain and more of this rewarding pleasure thing in some sort of better balance than the balance that exists now, which can be theoretically judged inefficient. I mean, I'll throw the question back at you. How many holocausts does the human race have to endure before you'll say it's not accomplishing anything? I mean, how much liability do I have to tack on to your existence in terms of suffering endured before you will concede, oh, well, that's too high a price to pay? If 9 out of 10 humans were born with elephant man disease, would that be enough for you to say, oh, fuck, this ain't worth doing? I mean, what's the number? What's the equation for your subjective evaluation of that value? And I'm not going to dispute that some of this is going to get subjective until we work through the dynamic and better understand what a pleasure is and what a pain is. And that's what I've been working on. That's what I've been talking about. And here you are just pointlessly dismissing it. But it's an important conversation because if all our pleasure is merely an illusion based on addiction, based on a desire that doesn't even have to exist in the first place, and that all pain is basically a bending of that desire into a road of dissatisfaction where it remains unsatisfied and unappeased, and then this doesn't become very complicated to see that it is not going to be able to function, that it is a zero-sum game.
Ethical judgments. So, And I would say as well, from my personal experience, that my empathy is limited to a certain extent, in the same way that my field of vision is limited. I don't believe that you or Gary or anybody else sits around all day crying about the poor little carrots being pulled out of the ground. So
yeah, well, that was just the stupidest ending remark ever. I mean, we all know that carrots don't have central nervous systems. They don't feel pain. So yeah, why would we worry about fucking carrots? So that was just nonsense. You just, fuck. I mean, why don't you just make your whole argument even more 4-year-oldish by saying something that stupid? Empathy for carrots? Talk to Matt about that one.